So this is my show called Proof. We have always been here. And it says we have always been here because until I was at least 15, I thought I was the only lesbian in the world. And these are some different photographs I've taken over the years. This is the cover of the Lesbian News for 2005, where I photographed Lori Jean on the front of the building at the center here in LA. This is my exhibit of 30 photos spanning 40 years of my life. When I was getting photo releases, it really depended on things like if people were still a couple, would they sign the photo release? So these two women, for example, had broken up, so I was so worried they were going to say no, but they said, oh no, we're best friends, and we're happy to have 5 minutes of fame. And I said, oh great, I'm so glad. This next photo is of friends of mine who I met who've been together as long as I've been alive, Pat and Jenny. Jenny's on the right, and she went AWOL to be with Pat from the Air Force. These women up here, Elaine and Mignon, very out and proud married lesbians, and so I love them, and I love that photo. This is Delilah, who's an actress here in Hollywood, and very out and proud lesbian as well. This is Shelley and Eileen. I took this at the Dyke March here in West Hollywood. So I photographed the Dyke March for many, many years, and this is right before we went marching. This next one is Marilee on the left and Wendy. They were both school teachers, and Wendy was out and proud during Prop 6, where every teacher would have been fired in California the day after the election if it had passed, and she would have lost her whole career. I really admired her for being out. And then Marilee on the left is a board member, for years was a board member of the Mazer Lesbian Archives. This is a friend, Carol Bliss, who was born and raised in Kansas. She worked at a canning factory making $1.30 an hour, and then the Civil Rights Bill, she said, number 5 was passed, and she was one of the first women hired on the railroads in the whole United States. And she said she went from making $1.30 an hour to $8.50 an hour, working for the railroad and getting overtime, so she could buy a house in Kansas within 5 years. This is Diane Sabian and Jewel Gomez. Jewel's very well known, very respected writer, very well known for the Gilda stories, which are amazing. This is Margaret Cho, who's always identified as queer and talked about the struggles of being Korean and being queer. And this is my friend Jeanette Bronson, who is the head of BLUE, Black Lesbians United. She's also been a social worker in LA County, just retired this year. But she has provided safe spaces for lesbians, and especially Black lesbians, for decades. This is Christy McNichol. You may recognize her. This is a photo from 1981. I took it before she went into the Merv Griffin talk show. And she's on the wall because she's one of the only people I've ever seen on television, even to this day, who I could relate to. She played a tomboy on a show called Family in the 70s. Above her is my very, very good friend, Marie Cartier. She has been a scholar of LGBTQ history and especially lesbian bars for decades. She has a book called Baby, You're My Religion, all about lesbian bars. This is Vicki Randall, who was in the band for Jay Leno's show, but she's also been a musician since I think she was a child, because we have photos of her in the archives at like 16 playing a guitar, and she's been in women's music, which we know as lesbian music, for decades. A very talented singer, musician. These two women, Sandy Sachs and Robin Gans, they founded Girl Bar here in Los Angeles, which was during the 90s when the Lipstick Lesbian came in. I credit them for Lipstick Lesbians. This next photo is Tori Osborne. She's, I would say, a lifelong activist and out lesbian for decades. She was at the founding of Redwood Records, and she is the first woman head of the LA Gay and Lesbian Center, it was called back then when she was the head in the 80s. She also was arrested for AIDS activism, so a lot of things I really respect about her. These next two photos are from Outfest. I took photos at Outfest for 22 years, and I loved it. It was one of the best things I ever did, and it was a volunteer position, and again, one of the best things I ever did. This next photo is also Outfest, Roberta and Andrea having a great time. I think everybody had a great time at Outfest. I'm looking forward to them bringing back the film festival this year. So this is our community wall, which is one of the most important things to me in the exhibit because I am a community person. The June Mazer Lesbian Archives is a community archive founded by lesbians in the community. And we've had events like last Sunday where we let anybody who wanted to be photographed by me, and I would put those photos on the wall with them. At the end of it is my artist statement. Kind of says some of the things I've told you, thinking I was the only lesbian on the planet till I was 15. And I really became a photographer and wanted to shoot the community because I didn't want anybody else to believe they were the only one on the planet. Because we've always been here, and I can prove it. I lucked out by having friends who used to go to Manhattan Beach tennis tournament, Virginia Slims. They used to give away free cigarettes there. That always cracked me up. So, of course, that's Martina Navratilova. I took pictures of these women dancing, and when I was young, there were two girls who were escorted out of Disneyland for dancing when I was like in, my first year of high school. So I never dreamt that I would see women dancing romantically that way. And I remember just crying when I first saw them. And then after I wiped my face, I said, I've got to document that. And I took that picture. This next one is Dykes on Bikes, and it was taken in San Francisco at the Pride Parade. And this photo above is my first girlfriend, and she's a very good actress, and I always say, she looks like she's getting reception on the banana. That's how good an actress she is. We did not date till college, even though we went to high school together, because we were too afraid. This is Linda Perry, who's a brilliant musician and music maker, and she was performing on a Women's Night at the Center one year. Let me see, it was 2012. And she brought in Courtney Love, and Courtney came up on stage and lit them both cigarettes, and then they started singing. This is another Dykes on Bike photo from West Hollywood Pride early. This was the first year I took pictures of Pride, 1986. And this is Jenny Schmitzu parking right here on Robertson in West Hollywood, and I asked her for a picture, and I said, please, and she said, sure. I was very grateful to get that. These women I have shot for many years. They're in the Dykes on Bikes for the Dyke March at night. And so this is from 2009. And this is sexy DJ Claudette. I photographed her at so many events. This is from a Dyke March in West Hollywood as well. And she was always full of life, still is. This is Frank, who's very famous here in LA, especially for being a sober surfer folk singer. And she always said, your jeans cuffs can never be too big. This photo here is every year I went to the Beverly Hills courthouse and shot Robin Tyler and her then soon-to-be wife, Diane, and Troy Perry and his husband, with Gloria Allred, who borrowed this baby from a gay male couple outside on Valentine's Day, and it was last year they were turned down for a marriage license in 2008, February. This is a really special photo of Colonel Marguerite Kammermeyer and her wife. I saw a movie about them called Serving in Silence, especially about Colonel Kammermeyer being thrown out of the military during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And it was in 1995 I saw this movie on TV. Glenn Close played her. It also had Judy Davis as her girlfriend, and Barbra Streisand produced it. And when I saw that movie in 95, I said, if I ever meet those women, I want to take a picture of their hands with the Edwardian buckle rings they gave each other in the movie. and have had ever since. And I finally got to do that 15 years after I saw the film. And I asked Colonel Kabenmeyer, do you regret telling the military you were a lesbian? And she said, how else would Barbra Streisand produce a movie I'm in and or about me and Glenn Close play me? So she said no, she didn't regret it. And the last picture here is of Ivy Bettini, who's absolutely an icon in our community, both for fighting for AIDS research and for AIDS patients, and also for being a really incredible activist in the lesbian community here in West Hollywood. And that's my show. Thank you so much for watching. Email or comment questions if you have them.